I'd like to call to order the regular business meeting of the East Maine School District 63 Board of Education. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Here.
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 Here. Okay, our first order of business is the public comment section. We did receive an email from a parent that I will read in a moment, but have we received anything else thus far? Okay, so we received an email through the portal from a parent, Lisa Russell, saying, once all teachers and staff that want to be vaccinated are vaccinated, what is your criteria for opening the school building for the full day, as so many other districts, including District 207, which we feed into, have already done? Can you do this at least for special ed kids who have lost so much over the last year? Ms. Russell, we did discuss this at last month's meeting, that we would not be changing our schedule. I refer you to the section of our website, and I believe it, help me out here. Yes, Ms. Bishop. Thank you. I couldn't remember. And I actually did look. So it is on the homepage under district announcements, and there is some really good information for our rationale, and we thank you for your comment. Okay, could I please get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And that motion passes. Okay, we are now in the portion of the agenda that is for reports. I do not have much or really anything to report other than to remind the board that we will have our self-evaluation on Thursday, April 29th, and that will be from 6 to 9. And that is all I have. Board members, anything to report?
I did try to join the North Cook dinner last week, the virtual one. It wasn't really a dinner, it was a presentation, I guess. I kept having internet issues, so I would join, connect to the meeting, 5 minutes later disconnect, and then disconnect every minute after that, so I kind of gave up, but I did try. And I cannot really report what happened, because even when I was connected, it was kind of slow motion.
I was able to attend the North Cook meeting, and I think the takeaway that I took from it was a pep talk and an encouragement of everyone weathering the pandemic, and just a congratulations that we made it this far, and keep going and doing your best.
I attended also, and I would echo Katie's comments, but I also want to add one of the things the speaker did emphasize as well was we have an opportunity to really look at what worked, what didn't work in our schools, and just kind of take a step back and analyze going forward how to do things differently. And that's something that I hope that we do take the opportunity to do. And that's all I have.
I was able to log in to that same one, and he's a really good speaker. We saw him, I don't know who was with me, but a few of us saw him a few years ago. He was the main speaker at another event, and he does a really nice job. And it is, I agree with Katie, it was a lot of, this is what everybody's been going through, this is what we can learn from this and move forward. And it sounds like in 63, we're definitely in the right direction and even ahead of some other districts around, so that's always good to hear.
Anyone else? Okay, and because of course I did not write it down, if I don't write it down, it doesn't exist in my memory, but I too did participate on that Zoom call, and I do echo everyone else's comments on that. Okay, thank you, board members. Dr. Schleiser, would you like to fill in for the superintendent report?
Thank you. Dr. Clay regrets that he's unable to be here tonight, but has asked me to share his report. As of March 30th, the district positivity rate is 3.9% within our 5 communities, and the range is 2.89% to 5.38%. And the vaccinating of our staff has progressed well over the past month. We'll soon have approximately 77.5% of our staff members vaccinated, and another 5% who have indicated an interest in getting vaccinated. We continue to encourage all staff members to take the vaccine in an effort to keep everyone safe. I'm recommending to the board that we remove the metrics that we have been using. The landscape of the pandemic has changed thanks to the availability of the vaccine. Although we continue to hear warnings about a possible surge, our community has shown just a slight increase in the positivity rate. With the majority of staff being immunized, I no longer believe an 8% positivity rate should automatically trigger a return to fully remote instruction. My recommendation is to remove the metrics and respond to the situation as it unfolds for the remainder of this school year. Our staff and students have been diligent with our safety protocols, and things are going well in our schools. So I feel confident that we can address the situation as it occurs and make decisions based on that assessment. So to the board, we'd like to hear your thoughts on removing the metrics.
Board members, your thoughts? Open for discussion.
I'll start.
Please.
I fully support that. I do think with everybody getting vaccinated, those who choose not to get vaccinated are on their own at this point. Since the vaccine is
Mr.
available.
Gluskin, in the
Oh, yeah, I'm
microphone,
sorry.
please. Thank you.
Yeah, my thought is that I agree. I mean, we have a large percentage of our teachers vaccinated. Those who are willing to get vaccinated have been given that opportunity. Those that have chosen not to are on their own. And I agree, 8% positivity rate should not automatically trigger a return to remote learning.
Any other thoughts?
I agree with Walter. I like the way this is worded. I don't think it should automatically trigger a return. It's been a long year, so this is an exciting thing to me. So.
Any other thoughts?
I will actually agree with this. I know I was one of the ones that wasn't keen on this to begin with, but I think that this is good because the way it's worded too, it gives us leeway. If there is like a giant surge overnight, we don't have to wait for it to get to the 8%. We could stop and take a step back and reassess things before that, or we could go with the 8%. So it kind of gives a little leeway as to what's happening in the community and our staff. And I'm glad to hear that it's been going well so far for everybody. So
I agree. I think it's a good.
Microphone, please.
Did you not hear me?
No.
Sorry. I said I agree.
I could barely hear you. It's for those
agree.
that are watching at home.
I would agree as well.
I concur. So,
Okay,
yeah,
so-
I think it's, and as Katie said, I think it's well worded. And I think in the remaining, 8 weeks of school that we have, I think it allows us the flexibility that we need.
Okay, thank you. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Schleiser. Okay, our first report, Mr. Roberson, is Summer Learning Recovery Plan for At-Risk Students.
Okay, so as promised last month, I'm excited to talk to you about some of the new summer programming activities that we have been planning to take place this summer. And while this presentation is going to be focused largely on some of the new things we're planning to put into place this summer, I know the programs and the educational acronyms that we all use confuses us a little bit. So I just want to make sure that I talk a little bit about what is already in place. So you'll see here we have some invitation-only programs that have traditionally taken place here in District 63. We invite students that qualify for those programs based on some different requirements. So extended school year is typically for students with IEPs. Ready, Set Kindergarten is some of our preschool students that will soon be kindergartners. And then ESL Summer School is for our English learners who need some extra support. We have traditionally had some fee-based programs as well, so Summer Camp Academy through Expanded Learning, and then our Summer Instrumental Music Camp, which will again take place this summer, and you'll have a chance to approve that this evening. But what I'm going to talk about is over there in that red box, and I'm going to start a little bit with what we're planning to do with our summer reading program. So basically, one of the goals of our summer programming was to get engaging books into the hands of all of our students. We partnered with Scholastic Books to develop a process where students get to choose their own books that they want to read. We know that evidence tells us that when students get to choose the books they want to read, they are much more likely to follow through with reading those books. So student choice was at the heart of this initiative. So basically what happened is the window for students to make their book selections closes on April 5th. So for the last few weeks, all students in our district have been able to log on and choose books that they would like to make a part of their summer reading packs. So you'll see up there, our pre-K through second grade students got to choose 12 books to take home this summer. Third through fifth grade students chose 9 books, and sixth through eighth grade students chose 7 books. There's a little gray area depending on some reading levels of students where they might have more or less, but basically that's kind of how it fell. And one of the best parts about this is it is completely free to all of our students. So they get to take these books home that last week of school, and I've talked to teachers in the district, the kids keep saying, so I bring these back in August? They're like, no, they're for you. So we're excited that this is a great extra opportunity that we've never offered for students before. So the books will be shipped to schools in early May. We hope to sort them and have them sent home with students by the beginning of June. Okay, so that is the first kind of prong of our summer programming approach. The next one, I'm going to talk a little bit about the math/STEM component that will be going home with students. So board members, you have examples of those items in front of you. So as I talk, feel free to kind of peruse them and get a sense of what's there. All right, so for our pre-K students, they will be taking home some number puzzles that they will use to reinforce some of the work that they've done with math over the course of the school year. At the kindergarten through fifth grade level, students will go home with what's called power packs. Those are the items in front of you that have rings on them and dice and chips. And as you'll see here, they're in kind of multi-age packs, or kindergarten through first grade students will get the yellow pack. Our second grade through third grade students will get the green pack. And fourth through fifth grade students will get the dark blue. Just to give you a sense, here's kind of a shallow dive into what the kindergarten through first grade power pack will look like. So there are a number of games that you'll see over there in the second column that students will be able to play based on the standards for those 2 grade levels, as well as strategies and tools that students can practice. Parents can log in and get additional guidance on how to support their student and additional ways to use all of this. This is, of course, all connected to the Common Core standards for those grade levels. Something that was really important for us is we didn't want to send something home for students like flashcards or workbooks. I think we were pretty realistic that students would not want to do something like that over the summer. So we were really looking at What are some engaging things that possibly families or students can do independently or together? Now, at Gemini, we went a little bit of a different direction. There are not a ton of math things in the summer that are exciting for middle school students to do, unfortunately, and we looked. But what we were able to do is we are sending home STEM kits with all of our 6th through 8th grade students. So in front of you, the yellow box is an example of the first STEM kit that will go home with our 6th grade students. That is a switch and shine light kit. So you can take a look at that. There are additional activities online that students can do with these STEM kits if they so choose. Our 7th grade students will go home with the solar cooker, so they will be able to cook some things outside with the power of the sun. So it sounds like a great dinner opportunity. And then 8th grade is all about fast plants. So basically, when we chose these different topics for the STEM kits, we made sure to align them so that they were basically extending what students had learned either in science or STEM classes that school year. So we were lucky that a few of those Gemini science teachers gave us some guidance on the best ones to choose. So obviously, so far, we have summer reading book packs that we're sending home with students that we have never done before. We're now sending home math activities for our pre-K through 5th grade students and STEM kits for our middle school students. And there is another piece that we're adding to this puzzle, and that is our summer enrichment program. So I worked with a committee to come up with what this could look like, because obviously from that first screen I showed you, we already have a ton of summer programming occurring in the district. So we created a vision together that said we want to implement a summer enrichment program for kindergarten through 8th grade students that focuses on the academic, social, emotional, and physical needs of students. That was the vision that we kept coming back to as we designed what this would look like. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how this will be set up. The first one will be, and this was really important to us, all students in the district will have the opportunity to participate in this. Knowing that we actually do have students that will participate in some of our invitation-only programming in the morning, when we were looking to schedule this, we wanted to make sure that a student participating in ESL summer school could still come and participate in this enrichment program. So we were able to finagle that with the schedule. Additionally, a challenge we had to think about is staffing. Traditionally, we have a challenge staffing summer school positions. So if we were to add this program concurrently with what was already happening, we felt pretty confident we would not be able to get many staff members to do all of it. So we had to really look at separating it from what was happening already in the morning. So to give you an idea, this is what the schedule will look like during the month of July, which is where summer school programming is set aside. In the morning, we will continue like we have in the past, Monday through Thursday to have extended school year, ESL summer school, and Ready Set kindergarten. But then in the afternoons, this is where we're adding our enrichment programming. Students will be able to pick 2 choice sessions they would like to participate in, and I'll get into more detail about what those topics will be. And you'll notice there is a lunch break in the middle, and I'll talk a little bit about how we will plan to feed students that decide to stay for the whole day and some different pieces of that as well. So that we are literally not taking buses all around the district all day. We are hopefully planning at the moment to have kindergarten through 4th grade programming at Apollo all day, and then we will have 5th grade through 8th grade at Gemini all day. Okay, so the next piece I want to talk about is that these enrichment classes will be rooted in the Illinois Learning Standards. So let me talk a little bit about that, because people often think that the learning standards really just focus on academics. And that's an important part of it, but there are a lot of other standards, as you can see here, that the state of Illinois asks us to do as a school in a school district. So let me give you an idea as an example of an enrichment class, how we might intersect some different standards into this class. So I'll take an example. This is pretty popular on the survey that we sent home, a coding enrichment class. So I can show you that one of the first pieces here is obviously that would integrate some key technology standards that students are required to get through the school year. Coding is going to integrate some math standards, of course. And then one of the big pieces that was important for us in designing this program is ensuring that school wellness, which is a fancy name for social emotional learning, intersects in all of these classes. We want to build some of the partnerships and some of the friendships among students and groups of students that maybe was lacking this school year because we had such a different environment. So the goal will be, when we have these enrichment classes, that they have some content standards, but that they're integrating social emotional learning in all of the classes as well. The next piece is, this was really important for us. If students were going to opt into a summer enrichment program where they could be at the school, or where they could be at the pool, or they could come to an enrichment class, we had to make it a little more exciting for them. So when we were thinking about these classes and the topics that we would cover, it was all about student interest, choice, and then ultimately increasing engagement because of that. So basically what we did is we first started by looking at expanded learnings information for student attendance in clubs throughout the school year. That helped us generate a pretty big list of what clubs have been popular with students and what we might be able to offer in the summer. So then we sent a survey out to families in early March, trying to get a sense of what participation might be like. We've never done this before and we have no idea. And trying to get a sense of what students would be interested in learning about this summer. As you can see here, we had about 317 students represented in the survey because parents filled out the survey for multiple students in their household at one time. So we had about a 10% of all student response rate, which I was actually pretty happy about with all of the crazy emails and things parents are doing in the spring. So that was pretty good. But you can see here, almost all of the people who responded would be interested in participating in a program. So this kind of gave us the green light that this is perhaps kind of a lane we haven't explored yet. So here you'll see when families filled out the survey, they were able to see a list of topics. We asked families to choose all of the different topics they might be interested in participating in, and then additionally asked families to give us additional ideas that maybe we hadn't included in there. So I will tell you basically the ones that came out to be the most popular. Up here at the top, I was not surprised about this. I think this was some parents leading the way here, but some review of key literacy, math, and science skills. So that's definitely a priority that we know when we're designing these classes that we'll need to have some classes on reviewing some of these key concepts and skills. STEAM, art-related enrichment classes and book clubs came out on top as well. Coding, I just gave you an example of what that could look like. That's another popular one. Fun with math, which for someone who went to school and didn't love math, I can't wait to see what we put together for that. Sports is another one, obviously. And then robotics was a popular one, especially at the middle school level, where we have such a robust robotics team. So that gave us a good idea of, as we move forward, what sort of topics we want to make sure that we have available for students to participate in. It's all about encouraging them to come out when they don't really have to. And then the last one is we wanted to figure out, do we need to offer virtual only options, in-person only options, or should we offer both so that we can collect some of the families that maybe aren't as comfortable sending their students to school yet. So as you can see here, we asked what sort of programming they would prefer. Largely in person is what families would like to see. However, we still have about 23% of families that would want a remote-only option. So the decision we made here is that we're going to plan to offer both. More in-person options, but we still want some of our, we still want some of our remote students to have the chance to participate. When we say all, we really mean all for students. So those are some of the nuts and bolts of what this will look like. One more thing that we added, if all of this isn't enough, by the way, this is a lot, we're adding one more piece to our invitation-only programs. Reading recovery is the evidence-based intervention model we have in our elementary schools. And our reading recovery teachers this summer that are trained, we have a handful of them that are willing to work with students on one-to-one tutoring in small group this summer that is different or then all of these different programs, and this would be for students that actually meet the qualifications that we would normally take students into this intervention for. And if you're curious when this would all happen during our summer school month of July, it would take place in the morning. It is possible that some students that might qualify, for example, extended school year, might also have the chance to get some reading recovery tutoring as well. They might slip out and get that and slip back in. This is another exciting piece that we're looking forward to offering for students this summer. So just a few more odds and ends to round out what we're planning for this program. The big one will be offering free busing available to students. Okay? We want to be able to bus them to Apollo or Gemini and bus them home. We don't want transportation to be a hindrance for students. Another one for students who participate in all-day programming. So let's say in the morning, they go to Ready, Set, Kindergarten, and then they have 2 choice sessions in the afternoon. There will be kind of a bridging time during the day where we will have lunch bunch. We will have some staff that will be there to kind of facilitate that process, and students will get lunches during that time on the district's dime. This might be the most exciting thing to you, board members, but this is being funded out of our COVID-19 relief fund. So everything I'm presenting to you is coming out of that pot, which is exciting. And then finally, we have never done these things before that I'm talking to you about tonight. So it will be important for us because sometimes when you start new programs, no matter how much research you do, you're still kind of shooting in the dark a little bit. So we will be making sure to do some surveying to see how this goes, to see if this is a direction we might be interested in going in the future, and what things we can continue to change and adapt so that we get more students to participate. So as you can see, this is a robust offering during the month of July. All these sort of programs. Obviously, Summer Camp Academy will go even longer than that, but everything else is going to be a jam-packed July for us. I want to give you a timeline of how we plan to unfold all of this. Obviously, tonight, hopefully, if you approve this proposal, then we can start to move forward with next steps, which will be we need to hire staff. So we need to see how many staff members are interested in being a part of this program. That will give us a great idea of how many enrichment classes we can offer. Registration will begin in the middle of May for students who want to participate. And then in the meantime, while registration is taking place, all of those fun summer resources for students will be sent home the end of May. We are looking to, late June, do training for staff to be able to lead this programming. Obviously, July 5th would be the start date for our enrichment program, and then it would end at the end of July. That's a lot of information, but I would love to open it up for questions, and I don't know if it makes sense for all of you to come back to your seats, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have at that time. Is that better? So people can hear you? Okay. And I know you're all really excited to go home and build these STEM kits or work with these math tools, but I'm going to ask you to leave them just because we're going to send these to schools so teachers can see what kids are going to be getting this summer.
I just wanted to say that this looks awesome and amazing, and thank you to your staff. It really seems like you've really thoroughly thought through the kids that, I mean, as a parent of a student who was in ESY, it's nice that they can, participate with the other kids in the afternoon. I just had one question. Looking at these math materials, is there going to be any support for our parents who don't speak English with them? I was concerned about that.
Yeah, so the only thing that we were able to find for sure is these items in Spanish through this company. So all of our dual language classrooms and students will actually go home with Spanish versions of this along with the English. In terms of all the other languages, we have not crossed that bridge yet of what we might be able to do. They offer things on the site, but I know hopefully when we get over the hump of spring testing and things, we can figure out what might be the best way for parents to log in and get some things translated if they need it.
Yeah, but overall, it looks amazing.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone that worked on it.
So my question is there, I know like only 37%, is that what you said, that, or 10% responded? So
10%.
is there a cap? Like if we get a whole bunch of kids, then when this gets out there that want to go, are we capping it at a certain number? Or are we just going to keep going and try and get more teachers, the more kids that we get?
So we are really trying not to cap it. So we have some community partnerships that we're trying to leverage to be able to offer some different classes outside of just our staff. I do have a backup plan if we have an overwhelming response and just don't have the room, is to possibly offer some of the sessions 4 weeks, but some of them are 2-week sessions, and so we can split and offer some of the opportunities to more students. So that's kind of the backup plan, but I think, like I said, shooting in the dark, we're hoping that we have a ton of staff members and a ton of kids and it all works together. We just don't know completely yet,
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
yeah. But I'm hopeful.
I just wanted to comment and say, as a parent of 2 kids and one that wishes she was old enough to go to school, this makes my heart so happy to know that these will be provided for all of the kids. I guess I had a question based on your answer to Sheila's question. Did you say they're 2-week sessions or 4-week sessions? Will that be like, it seemed like on the presentation they were 1 week at a time because they were broken down by July, Could you explain how that would work?
Sure. So the proposal right now is 4 weeks, that you would opt into 2 different choice sessions. You would go to those for the entire 4 weeks, and they would be an hour each day. Now, there will be some flexibility as, let's say we start on Monday opening up the staffing and we only get 13 staff members and only a few partnerships. Then we'll probably have to look at our scheduling before that's why we're doing it a month before registration, so that we can adjust how that might look depending on how many people we get. So, yeah, I will be able to tell you though, have a better idea next month of maybe how many staff members we're getting and what we're thinking.
Thanks. And just again, this is wonderful. I like the thoroughness, all of the components, and that they'll work together. Bravo.
I also agree. I think this is very well designed and great work to everyone. My question is, we know when you give something away for free, there's going to be some people that sign up that may decide doesn't cost anything. So if I go to Florida for a month and my kids don't go, so be it. I don't know if you have a sense of how much that's going to be. Is it 5% or 10% or something? Because that will impact staffing, et cetera. It's kind of like busing. People sign up for busing if it's free, but may have no intention of ever sending their kids on the bus.
Yeah, you bring up a great question, and I don't know, Mrs. Sterling, you've been doing some summer school programming longer. Have you seen a large dropout of people who register and don't come?
Okay, that's good. Thank you. That's good to hear.
And I
Okay, good.
And
Good
I,
to hear.
I think I think we're hopeful if students are choosing the sessions they want to do, I think we're hoping that that is a motivator for them. Yeah.
I just want to say, I'm, as you said, Katie, your heart is happy. I'm just, the fact that our students are going to be receiving books that they get to keep, it just, I'm overwhelmed by that. And these are fun. I mean, these are, I know it's math. Not everyone thinks math is fun. I do. I'm a math teacher, sorry. But this is wonderful. And I agree with you, sending home workbooks and things like that. They're not, they're not going to do that. So this is wonderful. And just, giving these kids choice of different type of programming, just thank you. Thank you. Our kids deserve it, so thank you.
Okay. Well, I think I stay up here because I think I talked
Yes, you
next.
do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we have student performance.
Okay. Board members, like we typically do every month, I have compiled the attendance information for you from March. You will see here that we have basically over the last few months averaged about a 95% attendance rate. We have some grade levels that will tick up or tick down a little bit, but we have largely stayed pretty consistent since about actually November. Sometimes at the end of the year, around spring break time, some attendance drops, but I'm wondering if people didn't really travel this year, so we didn't necessarily see some of the drop at the moment. If you scroll down a little bit, I do have the work completion information for you. At the moment, you will see it's 100% because we are at the beginning of trimester 3, and teachers have not put a lot of grades in their grade book yet. So obviously, as we get closer to the end of the trimester, that will be something that will be a little bit different. And then Mrs. Pacheco.
All right, so we know March was a little bit shorter for us with spring break, but we did still see a decrease in our overall number of referrals to our social workers and administrators for additional support for families. Our social workers and administrators continue to be busy providing our students and families with support, including check-in and check-out calls. We even have incorporated some early morning wake-up calls to make sure that we're ready for our 8:15 elementary time. We have had and continue to have referrals to our community partners for additional support, as well as continued calls for support for our families experiencing economic hardships. So as you can see in your report, we did have 23 referrals to our social workers and school psychologists for additional follow-up support, with 12 of those referrals resulting in further school problem solving. We had 10 referrals then to our building administrators for additional follow-up support, with 4 of those resulting in school-based problem solving and 15 referrals to our community partners. At this time, if you have any questions about this report or our attendance and grades.
Is there going to be follow-up over the summer through the programs that we're doing, and even the families experiencing economic hardship? Are there any plans yet to do some of that over the summer with our families?
To be honest, that isn't something we have explored thoroughly yet, but it does sound like probably a good idea given our current economic situation, as well as just knowing we do want to stay connected to those families. So that is something we can definitely explore.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you both. Our next report is from Mr. Camps, and it's our 5-year financial projection.
Good evening. I apologize, my report does not contain math packs or STEM kits. So, this is our 5-year projections report. Included in here, it's in board docs, so you have access to it. Included in here is our financial. I want to talk about briefly about the financial impact of COVID-19 on this fiscal year. Looking forward, I want to talk briefly about ongoing risks, which you've heard me mention before. But I also want to talk about an opportunity that we have with CARES Act funding. And then I'll go into the 5-year projections under 2 scenarios. One scenario, or scenario number 1, is what I call our current staffing model, keeping class sizes low based on the pandemic situation we're going through. And what I call scenario 2, or more normal conditions, getting back to staffing levels we had prior to COVID. So I remember it was exactly a year ago in this meeting where I had to give this report, and we barely knew what COVID-19 meant. So I thought it would be important that I give you an update on what this year's financial looks like now that we are almost through the year. While we are still 3 months away, and so a definite determination cannot be made, I have to say that the financial impact from a financial point of view only has not been nearly as severe as originally estimated. This is true both at the state and the district level. So very briefly, at the state level, based on a report from the Commission on Government Forecasting and Accountability, personal and corporate income tax receipts year-to-date February are slightly higher than for the same time period a year ago. A lot of this has to do with the federal stimulus checks that individuals have been receiving for unemployment or otherwise. Even though we had high unemployment in certain sectors, for the most part, unemployment over the year has recovered fairly quickly. We're at about a 6% unemployment rate nationwide. I think we were at like 14, 15 or higher percent a year ago. While, like I said, certain areas of the economy like leisure and hospitality has been negatively impacted, other sectors like manufacturing, construction, which have higher wages, are actually doing quite well. So that translates in overall slightly higher personal and corporate income tax receipts for the state. Sales tax receipts, similar story. The bottom line is that the economy, especially on the digital side, online economy, opened up and recovered pretty quickly right after the summer of 2020. So at the district level, we really have seen a similar situation. Property tax receipts in the fall, consistent with normal conditions. It took a little bit longer to collect because property tax payers had an extension of 60 days to pay, but they were in line with what we would have seen under normal conditions. It's too early to tell what spring collections are going to look like because they're going on right now. And they have a similar 60-day extension, but I'm hopeful that it will be on par. State and federal grant revenues have stayed consistent with pre-pandemic levels. Basically, we're getting reimbursed where we're spending. Federal reimbursement from food service programs, we are operating under a different program called the Summer Food Service Program for the entire year that has higher reimbursement rates. So that's been well. And finally, on the expenditure side, we are spending less than we budgeted. We have less substitute costs. Cost of extra duty work is not as much as I originally budgeted. If you remember, I budgeted as if we were going to spend like normal, and we're not. Not necessarily for the right reasons, but financially, things are looking okay this year. Looking forward, I want to talk about just very briefly a couple of the risks that we see, and also the opportunity that we have from CARES Act funding. So there's no question that the state ongoing has a deficit problem. And so there's a couple of things that I always worry about. Will the state shift the pension cost burden to us from them? We don't know. That could be about a couple $1 million impact spread over 5 years or so. And then there's always the threat of impacting the revenues that we receive from property taxes, whether it's a freeze or something like that. I believe that in the short term, these two issues are probably on hold and will not impact us. And by the short term, I mean year or so, because of everything that's going on. However, remember that the state failed to pass the graduated income tax. And they were counting on quite a bit of funds from there to solve some of their deficit problems. So they might be forced in the future to do something about, especially about the pension cost shift. For the next year or two, I'm not too concerned. On the other hand, this is something that we don't really have when I make this report. We do have a funding opportunity in CARES Act. And it's more than an opportunity, it's a reality. We have received between Part 1, Part 2, which has already just been allocated at $2.9 million, and then the third part of the grant, which is right about $6.2 million. It hasn't been allocated yet, but I have seen the number right next to our name. So that's about $10 million that we will utilize. Mr. Roberson talked about using some of that for summer program, but it goes beyond the summer. It will be used for things like reconditioning our facilities to make sure we can bring back students safely in the fall, and other areas as well. So I am encouraged that I see that. Getting into any questions thus far? So getting into the 5-year projections, I put together 2 scenarios. Scenario 1 is what I call under these conditions, trying to keep class sizes low going into next year. The revenue assumptions, these are fairly standards. Our EAV, or equalized assessed value of property, from which we derive property taxes, grows at a low 1%. CPI grows at about 2%. That's the average over the last 20 years. Evidence-based funding, which is the largest amount we get from state revenues, grows by about 2%, which is consistent with our Tier 2 location on the formula. All other state and federal grants, I am assuming, will remain at where we are today, no increase. And revenue from school fees remain at where we were a year ago. So again, I'm not assuming any increase there because our enrollment is fairly flat, slightly higher, but not much. On the expenditure side, salary will increase according to each union contract. If we are outside of a year for the union contract, I'm assuming 3%. Health insurance costs increased by 6%. By the way, we've never seen our insurance costs go up by 6%. It's been 4% or less. But I'm still assuming 6% because that's the industry standard. Transportation costs, I'm assuming about a 5% increase per year. Other supplies and services will remain, the assumption is they remain flat. And then, like I said, the assumption in staffing is we keep it where we are now, plus 7 certified staff, plus about 10 TAs, to allow us to keep class sizes low into the next year and for the entire next year. And that gives you the picture that you see on the chart. Revenues in blue, expenditures in the orange color. And then what I like to highlight is surplus or deficits and the fund balance as a percentage of annual expenditures for each year. I'm not worried about this year. As I said, things seem to be trending well financially. Even next year, I know the model calls for a slight deficit. Anything around $500,000, I think we can probably manage through. There's a lot of ups and downs. And then, yes, we do get into a little bit of a deficit because we have higher staffing levels in this model. Still, 102%, 95% of annual expenditures. So we have the reserves to be able to do this. So that is scenario 1. Scenario 2 has the exact same assumptions, except that we go back to staffing to basically a little bit higher class sizes, kind of where we were a year or so ago, which means staffing that allows us to do that, meaning less staff. Again, a little bit of a surplus even in fiscal year 23, right at 106% fund balance of annual expenditures. If you were to open the report that I gave you a year ago, this is pretty much the same numbers. Any questions on the assumptions or the models?
I do have a question. The $6 million we're getting from the latest fiscal stimulus or CARES Act, can that actually be used to fund the smaller class sizes, or does that have to be?
It can.
So that
It is not included in my models, but it can. However, I will say that if we were to use it for that, we would probably offset it with additional hiring, staffing expenses that are also not included in here. Okay? But yes, we can use it for that. Just very briefly, we monitor what is going on. I monitor what is going on in these models on a monthly basis. more towards the middle to the end of the year, less at the beginning of the fiscal year. But these are some of the things that we do. We monitor property taxes. Are they on track? We track expenditures on grant to make sure we don't leave revenue on the table. We monitor large departmental budgets. That's where the opportunity is to maybe reduce cost a little bit or push it out to a following year. We analyze staffing and make sure we balance fiscal with educational needs. And one thing I do want to point out, I attend every EdRed meeting I can. We have collaborated with all the EdRed districts, and we've been able to influence legislation with our votes or our slip submissions, and basically helped either move or not move legislation that would impact our financials. I think in closing, I'll say, if we need to make some adjustments because things do go south, I don't think that's happening over the next year or so, but in 2-3 years, obviously 80% of our budget is payroll and benefits, so any significant adjustments in our cost structure will probably impact reduction in staff. We can obviously do some reductions in other areas that are not staffing, but only to a certain extent. Having said this, we continue to have very strong financial position as evidenced by our high fund balances. So I've always, we have time to react if we get into this situation. And that is the report. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Camps. Okay, our next report is operations. Mr. Barry.
Good evening, everyone. Just a quick reminder that all of our buildings will be used as polling places with the exception of the Family Resource Center and the Early Learning Center for Tuesday's election. At Gemini, the Gemini project, the remaining rooftop units that were missed in the fall 2019 demolition phase were removed over spring break. That project went fine with no issues. There was a pipe leak in the heating system in room 1509, one of the new rooms. That was repaired under warranty yesterday. There were a couple damaged keyboards and some other equipment. The contractor has agreed to replace that for us, so I'm working with Ms. Achille on that. And the replacement unit for room, for workroom 1201, that was the unit that ruptured on Valentine's Day and flooded the room. That replacement unit arrived this week, and IHC is working on scheduling the installation. At the Early Learning Center, the interior punch list is pretty much complete with the exception of replacing 2 circuit boards in 2 of the units for the office. The wrong boards were sent, and now apparently it's going to be a while before we get the correct ones due to the chip shortage, which you may have read about in other industries. It's affecting HVAC as well. The fence contractor is on site to take care of their punch list, and Fox Excavating started pumping out the retention pond. The hopes is it will dry out over the weekend so they can begin reshaping the pond to the correct size and correcting the drainage system. And we're still planning on bringing the summer 2021 work to the board on May 6th. That is my report. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion to enter into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, collective negotiating matters, and/or security procedures?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes.
and that motion passes. We shall return. Okay. Okay, could I please have a motion to adopt Resolution BR 12-2021, Teacher Appreciation Week?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, would someone like to read the resolution? Thank you.
Whereas through Illinois and across the country, teachers make public schools great. And whereas teachers mold future citizens through guidance and education. And whereas teachers encounter students of widely differing backgrounds. And whereas our country's future depends upon providing quality education to all students. And whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community service. And whereas our community recognizes and supports its teachers in educating the children of this community. Now therefore, be it resolved that the East Maine School District 63 Board of Education proclaims May 3rd through 7th, 2021 to be Teacher Appreciation Week. And now be it further resolved that the East Maine School District 63 Board of Education strongly encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our teachers for their dedication and devotion to their work.
Thank you so much for reading that. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
and that motion passes, and we could not have gotten through this without our amazing teaching staff, so thank you for everyone. Could I please have a motion to adopt Resolution BR 13-2021, acknowledging May 6th through 12th, 2021 as National Nurses Week?
So moved.
Second.
And can we get someone to read that resolution, please?
I'll read it. And I gotta say, I think nurses, especially this year, have more than earned recognition for everything they've done. So I'm glad to be able to read this. Whereas registered nurses in the United States constitute our nation's largest healthcare profession, and whereas the depth and breadth of the registered nursing profession meets the different and emerging healthcare needs of the American population in a wide range of settings, and whereas a renewed emphasis on primary and preventive healthcare will require the better utilization of our district's registered nursing resources, and whereas professional nursing has been demonstrated to be an indispensable component in the safety and quality of the care of our students, and whereas the safety and quality healthcare services provided by registered nurses will be an ever more important component of educating our students in the future, and whereas the American Nurses Association has declared the week of May 6 to 12 as National Nurses Week, now therefore be it resolved that East Maine School District 63 celebrates registered nurses' accomplishments and efforts to improve the health of our students and show our appreciation for the nation's registered nurses, not just during this week, but at every opportunity throughout the year.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Gluskin. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
I have a quick question. The teachers and the administrative professionals get something. We don't do anything for the nurses? Okay, thanks.
Okay. Could I please have a motion to adopt Resolution BR 14-2021, Administrative Professionals Day?
So moved.
Second.
And could I get someone to read that resolution, please?
I'll read it.
Thank you.
Whereas administrative professionals support the work of our schools in countless ways, and whereas administrative professionals work closely with our students, parents, and staff, and whereas administrative professionals effectively serve as liaisons to the community, and whereas administrative professionals work tirelessly to keep our schools and the district operating efficiently, and whereas administrative professionals are an integral part of educating our students.
Now therefore, be it resolved that April 21st, 2021 is hereby recognized as Administrative Professionals Day. Be it further resolved that the East Maine School District 63 Board of Education strongly encourages all members of our community to join with it in personally expressing appreciation to our administrative professionals for their dedication and devotion to their work.
I second that. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, and that motion passes. Could I please have a motion to adopt Resolution BR 15-2021, transferring certain funds from the Operations and Maintenance Fund to the Capital Projects Fund of the district?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Camps.
So we are approaching the end of maybe the largest projects this district has ever seen. The expansion of Gemini, which was about $35 million, and the building of the Early Learning Center, which is adding up to about $17.5 million. So almost $50 million. I have mentioned in the past as we go through these projects that there's been a lot of ups and downs, and we may have to move some money out of our operations and maintenance balance to cover basically the end and finish these projects. We have been able to minimize this with value engineering, some other savings, but in the end, we made some decisions that were all the right decisions based on the size and the importance of these projects that require us to move some additional money to finish paying for them. Things like the consumer science classroom at Gemini was never in the original plan, and I think that was a great idea to do. The track around the soccer field was never in the original budget. Improvement of the soccer field drainage, gym lighting at the large gym at Gemini, the gold gym. On the ELC, we increased the amount of the playground equipment. We also put artificial turf on the playground instead of mulch. So things like that enhanced these significant projects. Again, I think it was the right decision. We've been accumulating fund balances for many years, so it's a good use of these funds.
Any questions for Mr. Camps before we vote? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes.
and that motion passes. Could I please have a motion to approve and accept the following donations?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes, and thank you to our generous donors. Could I please have a motion to approve Elizabeth Russell as the Apollo Elementary School Assistant Principal for the 2021-2022 school year?
So.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
that motion passes. Congratulations and welcome. Okay. All right, could I please have a motion to approve the MOA, EMESPA, registered nurse work year calendar days?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Schleiser, do you want to give us a quick?
Yes, currently we have registered nurses and certified school nurses in the district. Next year, we will have 6 certified school nurses and 2 registered nurses. And currently, the registered nurses are in a slightly different work calendar because they are in a different union. This allows us to have all nurses on the same work calendar, which just makes sense.
Yes. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 And that motion passes. Could I please have a motion to approve the following anticipated positions for the 2021 summer enrichment staffing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Roberson?
Yeah, great. So basically, this is a quick summary of the larger presentation I gave to you earlier. This is kind of anticipation of the amount of staff we would have working. As I talked to you earlier, we're keeping that a little fluid, trying to get as many staff as we can. So this could go up just a little bit, but this is what we're shooting for.
Excellent. Okay, any additional questions for Mr. Roberson before our vote?
You know what, I did have a question. Maybe I missed it, but with the morning session and the afternoon session, if parents can they choose not to do the whole day, or can they can? Okay.
Yep.
Just verifying. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 And that motion passes. Could I please have a motion to approve the summer instrumental music program?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Roberson.
Okay, so we are excited to bring this back.
Yes.
Mr. Lawson, who is our fine arts coordinator for the district, has been putting this together. So actually, this will take place. It's planning to be occurring at the beginning of August. You'll see in here the cost will go down just a little bit for students that want to participate. And at the very end of it, you'll see a sample schedule. We are planning to do this all in person at the moment, but to have smaller groups of students at a time. So obviously, we will continue to pay attention to metrics and safety guidelines and adjust this a little bit as necessary, but we're excited to continue to offer this for students.
I think I'm so glad, because it's just another nice way for these students to connect with one another and with their teachers, and what better way than to play music, so that's great.
Yeah, and at least they can learn from the music teacher than me, because I can't teach tuba.
I guess I didn't think much about that. Parents might have done some help with instruments more so over the last year than they ever have before. So,
Yeah, I get a lot of, does this sound okay? And I have no idea.
It sounds amazing,
great.
yeah. Just close the door. So
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Roberson? Okay, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, and that motion passes. Could I please have a motion to adjourn the regular business meeting of the Board of Education?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
And we are so adjourned. The next regular business meeting of the Board of Education will take place on Thursday, May 6th, right here at the Apollo Galaxy Theater at 7 p.m. Thank you so very much.